Good evening. Please direct your attention to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. It is so nice to be here with you tonight, and it's nice to look out and see so many friends, familiar faces. I am thrilled to be here with you. If I have not met you yet, I really look forward to the opportunity to do so. I also want to welcome those of you who are joining us virtually. And I want to say to all of you here and those joining us virtually, thank you for your support, for believing in the mission and the work of OCCJ. We are so proud to recognize the work of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission this evening for their efforts in educating our nation about the great community of Greenwood and elevating the stories of resilience and hope that surfaced during one of the most horrific events in the history of our country. During the years and months leading to the centennial of the Race Massacre, we heard so many say that they did not know and learn about this event until they were adults. Now, for youth educated in Oklahoma, this will no longer be the case thanks to the work of the Commission in ensuring that this curriculum is taught in schools throughout the state. Isn't that wonderful? On your table, you have seen some wonderful books. If you do not have access to these books, please take them with you at the end of the program. The books that are left on the tables after the event is done will be given as resources throughout our community. Now, at this time, I would like to welcome Carrie Gardenhire, OCCJ board member and vice chair for public awareness, to the stage to share a land acknowledgement this evening.
Oklahoma Center for Community and Justice, we recognize the land on which the Cox Business Center resides as both the traditional tribal range of the Osage people and also as land reserved for the Muskogee people. Since their forced relocation to this area from Alabama in the 1830s and 1840s. We also acknowledge that tonight's gathering takes place in the city of Tulsa, which includes the boundaries of not only the Osage and Muskogee nations, but also the Cherokee Nation. We recognize that Oklahoma itself is the home of 39 tribal sovereign nations, 7 of these, including the Osage, Wichita, Caddo, Plains Apache, Hickory Apache, Comanche, and Kiowa, all had their ancestral tribe range within and beyond what is now known as Oklahoma. In addition, 32 other tribal nations from across the continent were forced to relocate to this land within the last 250 years. OCCJ acknowledges the Native legacy, past, present, and future, that each of these tribal nations has with the land, which is known to many as Indian country. We recognize that they all have a spatial responsibility toward and a kinship with this place that includes the earth, water, mountains, plants, and rivers. Many of these tribes are not here by choice and endured immense injustice at the hands of colonial and governmental forces seeking to eradicate native land, religions, languages, and lifeways. It is this fortitude and strength of spirit of the tribal nations which has enabled them to make Oklahoma their home and continue to thrive culturally and spiritually as Indigenous people. As an organization dedicated to the elimination of bias, bigotry, and oppression in all its forms, we believe that tribal sovereignty must be recognized in order for true reconciliation to begin. We rejoice in these tribal nations as each takes steps towards this goal and are proud to offer educational opportunities that elevate Native voices in and through our programs. OCCJ stands with the first Americans of our state in our collective efforts to counter centuries of attempted genocide, and together we strive towards a more just future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Some of you know that I became acquainted with OCCJ almost 20 years ago when I first participated in OCCJ's Anytown Leadership Institute. I did not know then that OCCJ would redirect the trajectory of my life, leading me all the way here to this podium this evening before you. And I am so lucky and thankful that it did. The impact of OCCJ's programs, such as Anytown, the Youth Race and Leadership Forum, and others, bring understanding to our community and equip individuals with skills and knowledge to confront bias, bigotry, racism, and oppression in its many forms. These programs and the integration of them in our community would not be possible without the support of many individuals who champion OCCJ's mission and work. Listed on your program, you will find a list of our fantastic board members who advocate for OCCJ every day. Our corporate sponsors who have demonstrated their commitment to equity and inclusion both within their organizations and beyond. And our humanitarian members whose annual personal commitment to our mission support our programs and initiatives. If you are a board member, a representative of one of our corporate sponsors, or a humanitarian member, would you please stand so we can recognize you and thank you. We are indeed grateful for our partnership. Thank you. I would also like to recognize the elected officials who are joining us this evening. When I call your name, please stand to be recognized. Senator J.J. Dossett, Senator Kevin Matthews, Representative John Waldron, County Commissioner Karen Keith, former Mayor Roger Randall, and City Councilor Lori Dector Wright. Thank you for joining us tonight. So as you may know, tonight's event provides the needed operating support to carry out our important work in the community. I would like to take a moment to recognize the general sponsors for this event who believe in our mission and amplify our voice in the community. Our presenting sponsor, the Anne and Henry Zero Foundation. Our human spirit sponsors, George Kaiser Family Foundation, Ruth Nelson, Schusterman Family Foundation, and the Sanford and Irene Bernstein Foundation. Our community and justice, inclusive spirit, and bridge builder sponsors are listed in the program, and truly we could not do our work without their support. So we have the pleasure this evening of having the very first National Miss Juneteenth, Sanaya Gay. She was crowned for this title last year and joins us this evening all the way from Delaware with her parents. She also serves as a National Student Ambassador for the 400 Years of African American History Commission. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Sanaya.
Good evening, everyone. I know it's more people in here. Good evening, everyone. I am Sanaya Gay, and I serve as the National Student Ambassador. And I bring greetings on behalf of the 400 Years of African American History Commission, known as the 400 YAAHC. I am also honored to have this final public opportunity as the first reigning National Miss Juneteenth. On tomorrow, I will begin a 2-day countdown here in Tulsa, joined by young ladies from throughout the country, each hoping to be crowned at 6 p.m. on Saturday evening as the next Miss Juneteenth. It is in my capacity as the National Student Ambassador of the 400 Years of African American History Commission that I congratulate the Oklahoma Center for Community and Justice and its distinguished honorees for touching the lives of thousands through your service and commitment. Among priorities of the 400 Years of African American History Commission is to help ensure that the commemoration of 400 plus years of African American history is inclusive and appropriately recognize the experiences and heritage of all individuals. To that aim, the Commission and OCCJ are mutually dedicated to achieving respect and understanding for all people through education and dialogue. For those of you who have chosen to attend and share in tonight's event, we all represent a collective drive to achieve a more perfect union. This is an ambitious challenge, but it must be our goal. I end my remarks by encouraging all attendees, regardless of your age, background, or other distinctions, to write new history, to respect who we are as a whole, where we have come from, and where we must and can go. Again, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanaya, for your remarks, for being here in Tulsa. Welcome to Tulsa. And truly, young people like you give us so much hope for the future. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Eric Gill to offer the invocation for this evening.
If you would please bow your heads. Gracious and ever-present Creator, we thank you for orchestrating our steps and allowing us to occupy this space for this auspicious occasion. While we are gathered, we remember the lives of those who have been lost because of injustice. And as we attempt to find our way to reconciliation, we pray that you will walk with us on this journey. And along the way, help those with eyes to see and those with ears to hear. Lift up bowed down heads, mend broken hearts and relationships, fortify faiths, and finally we pray that you encourage and energize your children that are doing the work of liberation. Today we stand in your presence grateful for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission and all the time, effort, and energy that they have expended. We pray that you pour a double portion back into them. And today also we thank you for the Oklahoma Center of Community and Justice and the work they continue to do. Right now we pray that you not only bless this time we have together, but bless the food, make it nourishing to our bodies, tantalizing to our tongues, and sweet to our souls. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Gill. Finally, please help me thank the wonderful staff here at Cox Business Center who have prepared our meal and will be taking care of us this evening. So with that, I hope that you enjoy your dinner. We will reconvene in a few minutes for the rest of the program.
an entire group of people invading their own city, the participation of the National Guard to drop bombs or inflame pesticide, depending on what historical account you read, on their own citizens. We are not devoid of our past. The very thing that informs our present are things that happened before we were here. And that if we aren't intentional, and history will begin to repeat itself over and over again. Because I did not know about, learn about, or hear about the Tulsa Race Massacre until I was 26 years old, living in Richmond, Virginia, in seminary, working on my second master's degree. For 26 years of my life, I was devoid of being able to know who I am and to know where I come from. If I would have known the history, I would have known that the massacre story doesn't just end with the killing and the destruction, but it also tells a story of resilience and defiance to a system of systemic oppression that continuously puts its foot on a group of people they deem to be inferior. And if I understood the power of my people in the past, I'd understand the power that I had within myself.
So I grew up in Tulsa. I was born here, went to school here, and I never heard a thing about the events of 1921 and specifically the Race Massacre until I was an adult living in another state. Actually, I was in seminary in Texas. You know, for me it was so eye-opening that I could live here and be so ingrained in the life of this city, and yet I had to be out of state in another school reading a different book to ever actually hear what happened.
I remember in the early 90s when I moved to Tulsa, it was about the same time the Greenwood Cultural Center came into existence, and decided to go in and just look at the newspapers on the wall. And I remember thinking like, okay, I'm certified to teach Oklahoma history. Is this real? You know, I was just stunned that I could be a student in this state through eventually with 2 degrees of higher learning and never have encountered this in formal education. I think if you're a person of integrity and you understand something terrible has happened historically, you gain an understanding and a conviction and a commitment to forgive yourself for not knowing, but then deciding what you're going to do going forward.
If this history was more commonly known and understood, we wouldn't be 100 years after this event, just now building a history center. We would not have still some portions of our community and country who push back against finding those who may be buried in mass graves. We would have people that would have been very supportive of this much earlier than where we are now. It's wonderful that our community and in many parts of our country are coalescing around this initiative and this effort for 2021. But imagine where we would be now as a country, as a state, as a community, if this would have been addressed many, many years before. I think the benefits of what we'll see in the years to come are things that could have happened many, many years before now.
You know, there's still a lot of healing that needs to be done in the community. So what can we, by commemorating that tragedy, how can we kind of move forward from there? So right now, people have been coming down to Greenwood and Black Wall Street as they've learned more about the history. You know, there's like Watchmen, there's like all these shows that there's all this national attention that this history is receiving. And they come down here and they want to know the history. You know, they want to see what's left, they want to see what it is today. And it's hard for them to have a cohesive story on their tour. And so hopefully Greenwood Rising helps them to better put the story together.
When you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to say, what if that had been my family? What if I were seeing my business go up in flames? What if I thought my children were getting ready to be shot by U.S. aircrafts? If you allow yourself to put and walk walk in other people's shoes as part of history and not thinking about it as some dry, boring book, you know, and recognizing that the graves they're looking for right now, those are our families, you know, those are the families of Tulsans, of our state, and we owe them the most respect and the greatest intention to tell those stories.
The reality is a lot of people in the community where our church is in South Tulsa, the only time they come to Greenwood or that area is to go to a baseball game or to eat at a restaurant they like. We also need to acknowledge what happens downtown in Greenwood, North Tulsa. All of that is a part of Tulsa. This is our shared community and our shared life. And so anything that our church can do to help create a bridge from the south part of Tulsa to downtown to Greenwood to North Tulsa, we want to do that. And I've found that sitting on the commission, my friends from Greenwood and North Tulsa, they want to see that bridge go both directions.
I think Tulsa is, kind of known for being a bit of a segregated city racially, and hopefully this is an opportunity for us to kind of come together around something that was a traumatic experience, not just for the Black community, but for, the entire city of Tulsa, and hopefully something, great comes from that.
So the vision for Greenwood Rising essentially would be to educate, to inform, and then to allow for reconciliation. A place where people can come and heal from historic racial trauma, and more importantly, allow people to really take this journey together so that we can look at our past, learn from it, and not repeat those same mistakes and move forward.
You can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. We can't make plans for a better Tulsa. We can't make plans for a better Oklahoma without holistically and truthfully acknowledging what took place in the past. Not hiding it, not shunning it, not diluting everything that took place. Again, that's not an act of love. An act of love is telling the truth. So if you want a better Tulsa, if you want a loving Oklahoma, you're going to tell the truth.
Please direct your attention to the screens.
How can we come together and face this harsh, traumatic, and uncomfortable history, but use this as an opportunity for healing, for reconciliation, for truly moving forward as a city? And so to be at this point where the pinnacle of that project, of the Centennial Commission, was the building of Greenwood Rising Black Wall Street History Center, and to stand here now with you, it's really surreal. And knowing that we could not have accomplished so much in so little time without incredible community partners like the OCCJ. They came alongside from the very beginning, had many conversations. We must do something together. And we want to put our resources, our passion, our energy for justice and for community behind what you all are doing. And so it was refreshing, and it's been incredible to see how that connection that connectivity, that intentionality has resulted not only in the building of this center, but the work that we're doing together going forward.
Well, the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission was created by Oklahoma State Senator Kevin Matthews in 2015. And the goal was to rejuvenate the Greenwood District, both in terms of the awareness of its rich history, the Black Wall Street legendary history, but also in terms of creating an environment that is really ripe for economics and entrepreneurial activity today in the present. So I'm really pleased to have served as local curator for Greenwood Rising, the facility we're in today. It's a fabulous opportunity for teaching and learning around this history, and not just this history, but using this history as a jumping off point to confront racial challenges that we face today. Mass incarceration, Black Lives Matter, all these sorts of issues that we have to grapple with in the modern era.
The past causes the present and affects the futures. And so it's learning those stories of the past, not only the warts or the bad parts of our history, but it's also recognizing all of those good things and good things in the midst of some of our not very good stories. We look for what are those themes that are tried and true throughout humanity about working hard, about courage, tenacity, and it's with those skills that we can learn from the past, and with that history, then we can meet our future.
You know, reparations. We learned from Hannibal Johnson early on a true definition of reparations, and what he provided is what we've used many, many times, and that is this: reparations, repairing past damages and making amends. We all can embrace that, whether it be monetary, whether it be communal, whether it be building of a center where people come and learn this history, whether it be creating community coalitions for economic revitalization, whether it be direct monetary payments to those who are directly impacted by this. Reparations covers all of that. It's not just one segment, it's all of it together, and it's repairing those past damages that we have a moral obligation to follow through on.
The education of the commission certainly was varied. We wanted to reach a vast audience, whether it was through technology, lots of documentaries that are being made. Of course, there are lots of papers that are written, lots and lots of newspaper articles, and then certainly that in-person experience. There's nothing like walking the streets of Greenwood today, whether you're going in and out of the shops, looking at the brass plaques that are in the sidewalk, or going to the wonderful new Greenwood History Center that tells the story.
Well, it's never too early to begin this process of helping people understand that notion of shared humanity and the imperative of coming together across racial, cultural, religious lines. So OCCJ for many years, for decades in fact, has done that work. I've directed Anytown for 15 odd years. And Anytown is a summer camp, a week-long summer residential camp that brings together teenagers and allows them to get to know people that they might otherwise not get to know. It's such a powerful experience because it's the one opportunity that I've had to see really monumental change in a really compressed period of time. The Anytowners, the teens, come in one way and they leave transformed. The most important element for me is helping people understand that they can't be sort of passive observers. They have to get in touch with their own agency. I often quote Arthur Ashe, the famous humanitarian and tennis professional, who said, in terms of making change and doing something positive, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Well, good night. My name is Greg Shaw. I'm a board member of OCCJ, and this year had the honor of actually being the annual dinner's chair. So Wanted to say what a great video, what it is. It's great to be here tonight and all of us to be out again. And, you know, in this COVID world, to actually be sharing dinner together and sharing time together for such an important cause and to honor the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission. Tonight, we obviously honor the Tulsa Commission and all the work that they've done. There's a lot of work that went on behind the scenes as well for this event and for our dinner tonight. And I would like to thank Judy Kishner and the Zarrow Foundation. Judy was my honorary chair this year, but we also had some hard-working staff and other committee members, Howard Barnett, Ellen Brennick, Ken Busby, of course, Nancy Day, Maggie Hoey. We had Nicole Hopkins and Amber Cornelius, Marlene Levetis, Brooke Townsend, Steve Turnbrough, and of course our staff, our OCCJ staff who worked so hard, and Moises, who does everything. And of course, Eileen Shumloffel, who did a really great job of putting on this event. We want to thank her. The video was great in speaking to the work of the commission. It was a great year of I would say, celebration of bringing Greenwood Rising out of the ground, opening during Juneteenth and some of the activities that went on, all based around education, dialogue, bringing basically the history of what happened here in 1921 to life. One thing I keep going back to on the video and I keep listening to, and I hear Hannibal and I hear Phil speak, there was 5 things that they highlighted in my mind that was highlighted, and one of them was reconciliation. You can't have reconciliation if you don't have education and dialogue, which is very important. Which goes right with our mission here at OCCJ. Reparations, they talked about reparations, and reparations goes into some of the other things that I caught on the video, which is economic development, also in education. There's many things that, as Greenwood grows, and this is one of the first, Greenwood Rising is one of the first big projects that are coming up out of the ground there, that's an economic development engine that will build on for the rest of all the economic development that'll come down Greenwood. And the last, but most important, is honoring the survivors and the descendants of the 1921 Race Massacre. With Greenwood Rising, there's now a place for that to happen, for that history to be told. These are things that I'd never, growing up back in the Northeast, never even heard of, ever. And it wasn't until I moved here to Tulsa in 2004 that I was told some of the stories. And it wasn't until I was in programs like Leadership Oklahoma that things were brought to my attention, and I got to hear Hannibal Johnson talk and hear people talk about the 1921 Race Massacre. Now with Greenwood Rising, there's a place for our children to have a place to go, to experience, to listen to that history and to honor those individuals that were lost in 1921. Like I said, I didn't know about it. There's many in Tulsa that didn't know about the history of it, but now the world knows about it. And through this last year and through the Greenwood Rising, there are lots of people who are going to come here to Tulsa to experience that history. We're here tonight to present an award to the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission, and I want to welcome to the stage Jessica Lowe Betts, which is the board chair of Greenwood Rising, to present that award.
Good evening. For the last 5 years, I've had the privilege of serving on the Commission's steering committee with a group of 17 talented, humble, and passionate community volunteers. I oversaw the Public Relations and Marketing Committee, and I honestly had no idea when I said yes what I was truly in for. I knew this opportunity, Senator Matthews, would involve lots of hours, exposure, problem solving, and solution finding. But more than that, I discovered a developing passion for truthful storytelling and what it really means to yield our gifts and talents to a higher purpose, one that's so much bigger than us. I would be remiss if I didn't take a few moments to acknowledge my village, my squad, my anchors. To my husband, Justin Betts, thank you for loving and supporting me every step of the way during this long journey. To my colleagues at One Oak over in the corner, thanks for covering me when I broke down under pressure with my day job and trying to manage commission work. Thank you. To the faithful and humble PR committee in the House, I see some of you. Thank you for diligently working with me to manage what often felt like impossible demands and expectations. And to my fellow commissioners, my family, thank you for giving the best of yourselves and staying until we crossed the finish line. We made it, and we are still standing by God's grace. The business acumen, the wealth and grit of the Black family and community, they were built, nurtured, and thrived in Greenwood. Tulsa's Black Wall Street was a national model and a dream realized for Black Americans at a time when Blackness was fiercely hated, persecuted, ostracized by white supremacist systems of power. As a Dallas native who came to Tulsa as a young, eager professional, the story of this community lit a fire deep down in my soul. I often heard God whispering reminders to me of my commitment to be led and to be used by Him. I often think of my 3 young children, Janiyah, Jayla, and Justin Jr., who are growing up in a city that has such rich Black history, and them seeing themselves in it and understanding who they can be as they learn about it. These are the reasons I said yes to serving as a commissioner and to becoming the founding board chair of Greenwood Rising Black Wall Street History Center. What the commission labored for and birthed in this community over the last few years will be here long after we are gone. Together, we moved mountains with our collective strength and compelled this nation to learn and to talk about what happened here 100 years ago. This story, our story, will never be hidden again. So now, in the spirit of cooperation and inclusion, please stand with me for the moment we have all been waiting for. Please stand with me in the spirit of cooperation. It is with great honor and pride that we present the OCCJ Tulsa Annual Award for the work of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission. Phil Armstrong and Senator Kevin Matthews, please come to the podium to accept your award.
Thank you so much. On behalf of the Centennial Commission, the steering committee members, and our founder and chair, Senator Kevin Matthews, I'm truly honored and sincerely humbled that we are a recipient of this award. Special thanks to Moises Echeverria, and special thanks to the selection committee. I also must take a moment to stop and thank someone who was silently on the sidelines, watching over, listening to, and praying for the person you see standing for you tonight, and that was my wife, Monique Armstrong. Will you please stand so everybody can see you? When I reflect upon the last 18 to 24 months, I think of the complex and some might say insurmountable challenge of bringing people together in spite of the grime of public scrutiny and critique. I think of the significant and emotionally charging history around what has been aptly described Tulsa's Dirty Little Secret, and how it appeared early on that many citizens from different perspectives and cultural backgrounds may have wanted to keep it that way. I also think about what the commission members, and specifically the steering committee members of the Centennial Commission led by Senator Kevin Matthews realized is that this was much greater than any one of them or I could have ever imagined. This is difficult history. This is uncomfortable history. And regardless of those who felt the need to push through legislation such as House Bill 1775, making it more of a challenge to teach difficult history, we had to forge ahead and persevere. Not for us, or for this moment, or even for this particular centennial year. We needed to stay the course and effectively communicate to those who wanted to listen that this was about embracing the vital benchmarks of acknowledgement, atonement, and reconciliation for the past and future generations. Once these were addressed, we could begin achieving what the visitors of Greenwood Rising now are finding out. There's a final benchmark: restoration, restoring what was lost. The collaboration of OCCJ in this work with the Commission by establishing the first ever Youth and Race Leadership Forum in 2020 was evident by the passionate participation from the many students who attended. A program creating a youth-led space where students are able to safely and respectfully have conversations about their experiences with race and ethnicity. You will hear more later this evening from a youth participant of that first forum from 2020. And I'm excited to announce that Greenwood Rising will be the host site for this year's fall Youth and Race Leadership Forum in November. The philosopher Aristotle once said, if you want to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. We chose to do something. And not just for Black Tulsans, not just for the rich history of the citizens of Greenwood, not just for the diaspora of Black Wall Street descendants and survivors, but for all Tulsans, Black, white, young, old, affluent, povertous, indigenous, freedmen, conservative, liberal. We all are Tulsans, not North Tulsans, not South Tulsans, East or West Tulsans. We Tulsans have this opportunity to show the world how a community can lay the foundation for racial healing and reconciliation in spite of its 100-year-old dirty little secret. At the most difficult moments of this journey, and there were quite a few of them, I came across a quote from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg that was poignant and inspirational. After her passing in 2020, I read a few articles on her life and all that she endured from those who attacked her, from the time she was nominated and appointed, all through her career as a Supreme Court justice, and up until her passing, when the next generation dubbed her the notorious RBG. She once said this: fight for the things you care about, but do it in such a way that will lead others to join you. This quote, my faith in God, key leaders of the steering committee, and my family, not in that particular order, kept me moving forward. I can say with all sincerity, as I look back on the past 18 to 24 months that led to this moment, I'll close with these words from the title of Maya Angelou's 1993 book of essays: I wouldn't take nothing from a journey now. Thank you again for this award. Good evening, Tulsans.
I want to thank OCCJ for having this event and honoring us with this award. my sister, Jessica Lobetz, usually writes my words for me. And as she said, we are a family, and she is the one that could calm me and keep me from just getting up more upset than I should during this past year. But I want to say, I want to start with the quote that Hannibal used. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And so that's what I did. I started with what I had, and that's a few friends. And so I want to acknowledge a few of them that are here tonight. Glenda, Maggie, and Monica, who I worked with closely, and then every person on the team, and the donors, both present and not present, that made this happen. I want to thank you. Give them all a hand. OCCJ, I read that at the heart of your mission is creating spaces for dialogue and facilitating programs that serve to empower, educate, and inspire Oklahomans to create inclusive communities and ultimately overcome oppression. Our story is very similar to that. What we've done with this History Center is the same thing. It is the story of persistence, resilience, and cultural pride in the face of unbelievable adversity. Just as is the story of those OCCJs, just as a story of your work at OCCJ, that work continues to be about those same things, those things related to all races, all cultures, regardless of gender or sexual identity. That's what this work was about. And so it's a tremendous honor to receive this award tonight. Thank you very much.
I have the awesome privilege to introduce to you all a person that gave me and most of us the inspiration for a lot of the work, and that was Miss Brenda Alford. She is a direct descendant, and she continually would send messages and be there to say things to keep us going and to remind us all of the very real and true history that many thousands of those who can say, my great-grandfather or my grandfather owned a business, and tell that story with passion and understanding. She was that for us and still is that now. Please welcome Miss Brenda Alford.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you so very much. I'd first like to recognize my daughter who is here with me tonight, Jordan Alford. Would you please stand, please? And I also want to take this opportunity to remember my husband, the late Romeo James Alford Jr., who was just so very, just with me all the time on this journey, and was just so encouraging, and unfortunately passed away earlier this year. But I just want to remember him and just thank him for all the work and all the encouragement that he gave me on this journey. Good evening. I am the proud granddaughter of the Race Massacre survivors and Black Wall Street entrepreneurs, James and Vassonor Nell Sr. It brings my heart great joy to witness the entrepreneurial spirit and memorialization of our family and community legacies in this day and time. It has been my honor to serve on the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission, which is dedicated to educating Oklahomans and Americans about the Race Massacre and its impact on the state and nation as a whole. I also serve on the Mass Graves Public Oversight Committee, which is dedicated to finding and locating the victims of the Race Massacre in order to bring some sense of justice and healing to our community that suffered so greatly. Greenwood Rising will continue these efforts to foster the conversations that promote diversity and inclusivity in our communities and beyond, in hopes that the tragedy that occurred in 1921 will never occur again. I'd like to close with a quote that I found in the memoirs of my late aunt, Dr. Cecilia Nels Palmer, who was also a survivor of the Race Massacre, if you will, at the age of 2. It reads, "I feel there is no such thing as standing still when change comes and all traditions are destroyed. For when we have no past, we certainly have no future." Thank you so very, very much for honoring the Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission and Greenwood Rising.
Thank you, Jessica, Phil, Senator Matthews, and Ms. Alford. That was great. Through the events like tonight and the money that's raised tonight, a lot of that goes directly towards our programs for youth. You've heard a lot tonight about Anytown, which is one of our premier programs, and you've also heard a lot tonight about the Youth Race Leadership Forum. We have 2 guests here tonight that we're going to introduce you to and that we're so proud of. And it's always better hearing about the benefits of a program and how they affect somebody and affect somebody's life, not from the third party, but directly from those people. So joining us tonight, I would like to welcome to the stage 2 young students, both Connor Harris and Kamari Crisp, who just recently in the last year have participated in Anytown and the Youth Race Leadership Forum.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Connor Harris, and I'm a senior at the Broken Arrow High School. I'm a part of Tiger Theater and our leadership program, while also being an active member of Scouting BSA, working on my Eagle project now. But one accomplishment that I hold close to me is being a graduate of the Anytown Leadership Institute. I first heard of Anytown back in 2016 when my elder sister went through. She went for 6 days and came back with a fire in her eyes. That fire was the desire to do more and to be more. I wanted that fire in my eyes. The 2020 Anytown was canceled, but I was able to attend the 2021 program. A lot of changes were made to accommodate for the pandemic. The program was shortened from 6 days to only 3. I was impressed, however, by how much information we were able to cover in those 3 days. We talked about race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, suppression, discrimination, but also acceptance, inclusion, and change. Most people would feel scared or embarrassed talking about some of these topics, but each one was approached with an open mind and maturity. Each game and activity that we did had a deeper meaning connected to one of the topics. I didn't realize how big of an impact Anytown had on me until my first day of school. I didn't realize how closed-minded others were and how exclusive other people were. I speak very highly of the program and recommend all my friends to go through the course. I am working with a representative to further promote and encourage at my high school all events that OCCJ hosts to further educate and change our youth. It has changed my life, and I want to give others like me an opportunity to change and have that fire in their eyes. I want to continue to support OCCJ and to help spread the Anytown spirit. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Kamari Crisp, and I wanted to start off by saying I'm honored to be here with you all tonight. I wanted to start off by thanking Moises, the OCCJ, and the Youth and Leadership Forum. I got the opportunity to join the Youth and Leadership Forum last year during the summer in the midst of COVID, and I was able to sit in a room, or hashtag breakout room in Zoom, with people of different races, genders, political viewpoints, sexual identities, sexual orientations, and it felt right. It felt perfect to be there at that time with all of those people and share what I was feeling and share how it had impacted me in those events of that summer. It also felt right to be able to give in return that same acknowledgement and value that their feelings had with them. And I was able to express great joy and sadness and all these emotions with people. And I felt as if we were one in that moment, or those 3 days. The YRLF gave us the opportunity to look at the issues in our community, and the immediate thought that I had was the race, the effects that it had on the African American community in Oklahoma after the 1921 Race Massacre, and their lingering effects that it still had, such as food insecurity, economic job opportunities, and education. I felt very honored, and I felt very opportunistic, and felt very happy that I was able to experience that with everyone. I intend to build my leadership skills after that program, and all of my skills that I've learned through that program, and continue to go on in my communities. I would like to end it by saying thank you to Moises, the OCCJ, and the Youth and Leadership Forum for that powerful experience, and one I will never forget. So thank you and have a good evening.
Find where I'm supposed to be here. My name is Howard Barnett, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving as the chair of the board of directors of OCCJ. And as such, I get to ask you guys for money. This is a fundraiser after all. So that's, if you didn't understand that when you walked in the door, then you do understand it right now. At your tables, you'll find cards that we would ask you to fill out to make a donation to OCCJ. You have heard from a couple of really interesting students about the kind of impact that OCCJ has, and I hope you can understand and look at your program. You'll see all the programs that we do at OCCJ that affect our youth and our adults as well. So please pick up your cards, fill them out, and for those of you that don't understand how nonprofits work, nonprofits depend totally on contribution from people like you. And thanks to COVID, it's been a really tough time for most nonprofits, and OCCJ is not immune to that. So we would ask you to be generous. We're approximately $20,000 short of our goal for this dinner, and there are a couple hundred people here, so $100 each. And don't view that as a maximum by any means that you can do. I have already done my card. I have it here. And we're going to, for those of you that are in virtual, you can go to our website and donate. So we would ask you to consider doing that if you enjoyed tonight's program and appreciate the work that OCCJ does in this community. So again, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to fill out your forms, and we'll raise up your cards and we'll come by and pick them up. Okay? Ready, set, go. Mm-hmm. Okay, 45 seconds left. You guys can do it. Okay. Now, just because the time is up does not mean you can't complete your cards later on. And we will be happy to collect them as you leave tonight. All right? Now, you're having way too much fun. Raising money is serious business here. I'm going to close this evening, first of all, to thank Greg Shaw and Judy Kishner and the committee and the amazing staff at OCCJ for helping us put on another successful dinner. I also want to thank the Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission for allowing us to honor them tonight and help us hopefully have a very successful fundraising evening, as well as something that I think we'll all remember. I'm sure we all agree that their handling of this sensitive subject, and it was a very honest and honorable way, and their work is leaving us with some very important things in the city and the state, including obviously Greenwood Rising. Now, OCCJ, to me, is a very special organization. I've often said that we were all about diversity, equity, inclusion before those became household terms. Our mission is to achieve respect and understanding for all through education and dialogue. In this way, we hope to make and build an inclusive community for all of us. Thank you for supporting us in this mission. So that's all we have. Good night. We are adjourned, and thank you for coming.